ability to do so.
Thank you.
All right, I think I got everyone. Good to go, good to go, good to go. Okay. So guys, thanks for jumping on here, first of all, and taking the time to join us. How this is gonna work, I'll just ask that you all stay muted until I call on you to ask a question. If you do have a question, please let me know just by writing down in the chat. I'll certainly make sure that we save time for everyone to get a question in. Joining the call today, we've got our Director of Athletics, Ken Ralph, and very excited to introduce our new men's ice hockey head coach, Ben Barr. So at this time, if everyone's ready, I think, Sam, we can go live, and then I'll hand it over to Ken Ralph for our opening statement.
We are all set.
All right, great. So welcome everyone. We're very excited to introduce our new men's ice hockey head coach, Ben Barr. To start us off on today's call, we'd like to hand it to Director of Athletics, Ken Ralph.
Thanks, Tyson. I appreciate that. And it's great to see everybody. And I appreciate everyone's patience as we worked our way through the process. This was a search that we had not anticipated in this year. And the circumstances of it were difficult. And, it was tough sometimes to reconcile your personal feelings with the needs of the program. But we've got to recognize, that we have a responsibility to the young men who play here at Maine, to our fan base who supports us so beautifully, and to the state of Maine, which supports this program to a level that is the envy of every other team in Hockey East. And we had to forge ahead and do the right thing for this program and go find the best coach to get this program back to the winning tradition that we all expect of the Black Bears. We cast a very wide net, and we recruited heavily for the position. And fortunately, through all of it, we got our number one choice, which is always makes you feel good when it's all said and done. We used a very unusual process. We broke our search committee up into two halves. Brian Faison, our deputy AD, Samantha Hegman, our associate AD for compliance, and myself, we followed up on the on-campus elements of being a head coach. So questions like budgets, fundraising, communications, alumni affairs, academics, the administrative elements of being a head coach, our half of the search committee managed. Then we had a hockey half of the search committee, which was Jim Montgomery, Garth Snow, and Bruce Major. And what that half of the search committee did was they drilled down on the hockey knowledge and hockey IQ of our candidates. And then we brought the two groups back together, and we argued out exactly how things played out in each of the interviews. And I'm sure Ben will tell you that it was a very intense process, especially on the hockey side, where you really had to prove your hockey knowledge by doing things like pre-scouts and film evaluations and going through these different kinds of elements that are very, very specific to building a winner in hockey. And one of the things we said from the start is, sometimes in interviews, you can get caught up in the person who looks the best or wears the nicest suit or presents well in front of a room. And from the start, we said, look, we are not hiring a fashion plate. We are not hiring a spokesperson. We're hiring a hockey coach. And so that's where the focus needs to be. We're going to hire a hockey coach here, and we're going to hire the best hockey coach available. And I feel confident that we did that. The things about Ben that drew us to him as a candidate is he's been a winner at multiple programs. You take a look at what happened during his time at Union. You take a look at what happened at Providence. You take a look at what was built at Western Michigan in his stint there. And everybody knows the story of what's happened at UMass when Ben got there with Greg Carvel. He's walked the path, and being a winner at multiple programs says an awful lot. It's not by chance. This was by design, and this has Ben's fingerprints all over it. That's something that was very important to us. The other thing is that Ben's had outstanding mentors in the coaching world. He had a chance to play for Dan Fridgen, who had an excellent career at RPI. He then had an opportunity, his first volunteer job, to work with Seth Appert, who's now at Rochester in the AHL and has also worked with the national development team. He's worked with Nate Lehman, who has a national championship and is one of the best coaches we have in college hockey, and was just selected to work with the World Championship team. He worked with Andy Murray, who had at Western Michigan, who has years and years of NHL experience behind him. And then finally working with Greg Carvel, who has pro hockey experience at St. Lawrence, then went down to UMass and helped develop a national championship program there. So the mentorships are in place, and that was something that is incredibly important and was something that really stood out for Ben as a candidate. We also talked a lot to people in hockey world, whether it's agents, advisors, scouts, and it was clear from all of them that they considered Ben to be the best recruiter they see in college hockey. The connection he makes with the players, the way he works with the families, and the way he follows through on those promises once they arrive on campus, have put him in a position where he is one of the most trusted people out on the recruiting trail. And we want that success to translate to what we're doing with our Black Bears. And like I said, just the track record of building programs. We've had some good hockey here. We're not where we want to be. We want to start filling that trophy case back up again. And we needed a guy with a track record of building programs to get us back to where we're carrying some hardware around campus and we're parading our rings out in front of everybody. We want to make your job easier, guys, by winning more games, because I know it's a lot more fun to cover a winning program, and we want to make sure we've got the guy there to do it. And the other thing is Ben really put together a solid program on how this team is going to move forward, what he's going to do to take us to the next level, step by step. We ask that everybody be a little bit patient, because there's a process involved here, and we're going to follow the steps, and we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to treat people the right way throughout the whole deal. And then the final thing before I throw it over to Ben is, I think everybody's had a rough go with COVID this year. I think everybody's had some battles. Everybody's had some struggles. I think everybody's waiting for COVID to be in the rearview mirror. But I take a look at Ben Barr and what happened in his COVID year. What did he do? Well, took a team and won a Hockey East championship. Then he took that team and went out and won a national championship. Then he and his wife gave birth to twins right after the national championship game. And now he was just selected as the head coach at the University of Maine. I don't know anybody who's had a better COVID experience than Coach Barr here. And that's something that's awfully exciting. And so, it's my pleasure to introduce to everyone the fifth head coach in the history of UMaine hockey, Ben Barr.
Thank you, Ken. That's a tremendous introduction. It's really an honor to be named the fifth head coach of the Maine Black Bears. It's something that in my wildest dreams, probably 10, 15 years ago, I could have never imagined. So I'm truly humbled. Before I talk and take any questions, I just have some thank yous I'd like to start with. Ken, obviously to you and putting your trust in me. I don't take that lightly. President Farini Mundy, thank you. The search firm, Brian Faison, Samantha Hegman, Jim Montgomery, Garth Snow, and Bruce Major. I know without their support, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to everyone today. Very much appreciated. To my mentors, as Ken had mentioned, I've been fortunate to be around some of the best hockey people in the world, I believe, not just in college hockey or prep school hockey or pro hockey. I really believe in the world. And, some of those names that I'm going to miss some, Greg Carvel, Nate Lehman, Andy Murray, Rick Bennett, Jared DeMichael, Tom Ward, Seth Appert, Dan Fridgen, Dave Shyak, Jamie Russell, some of the names I've been around in college. And then a friend of mine, Alex Moody, who was the reason I actually ended up as a student athlete at RPI, lives in the Boston area now. None of this would ever happen if he didn't believe in me when I was a junior in high school at Shattuck. Obviously, with the passing of Red, the circumstances around this are not ideal. It's tough on the team. It's tough on the community. I completely understand that, and I hope that in time, I can honor the memory of the people that came before us, before me. There's so many of those people in this program, players, coaches. There's a tremendous amount of responsibility I feel to carry the torch into the future for me in Black Bear hockey. I'm going to embrace that responsibility. And I hope that we all together will, in time, be able to build championship programs here again at Maine. I know it can be done. I've seen it done at multiple places. There's a formula that works, getting the right people in place and then helping them get better every day. But it takes everybody. It takes our entire staff, our administration, everybody on this call, the community. It really is it's an effort that everybody has to be involved in. I know I'm the leader of the program at this point, but if we're all pulling in the same direction, we all see the same vision, I think we'll get there in due time. I know we'll get there in due time. So it's a tremendous honor. I can't thank you enough, Ken, again. And more than happy to take questions now, Tyson, if you'd like.
Sure. Thanks for that, Ben. Thanks, Ken. We'll open it up now for questions with either Ben or Ken. And we'll start with Larry Mahoney from the Bangor Daily News.
Hey, Ben, congratulations.
Thanks, Larry.
How do you get it started? I mean, you've had a chance. You don't apply for a job like this without doing homework. What attracted you to the job, number one? Number two, where do you start in getting this ship turned around? Thanks.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that attract anybody to a program like Maine. You know, it was easy for me because I'm very, I was a student athlete at RPI when Ken became the athletic director there. So I've known Ken for a really long time, which made the introduction and made that part of it easy for me. And I'm very close to Jim Montgomery, who was during that time at RPI, who was an assistant coach. So I had some connections to the program here, which kind of made it that transition and the interest maybe mutual there to start. But as far as I don't know if there's many programs, better tradition, and a better history than Maine. And I know that it's been a while since there's been championships. It hasn't been that long. I know we can get that buzz back, and I've seen it happen at many places. It's the same formula as I mentioned. And to answer your question, Larry, how we start is we just start day one. We just start getting better every day. We can't. We're not going to talk about winning a national championship tomorrow. We're going to talk about building a national championship culture and program that hopefully in a few years we'll put ourselves in position to compete for those championships, Hockey East championships, national championships. So, we have to make our current players. We have to work with them. We have to make them better. We have to develop the players. We have to recruit good student athletes, good people. We have to make sure our entire staff is on board with the vision and what we see the program like moving forward. And then we just have to constantly talk about where we see this program going and our vision. We have to communicate our vision to everybody. And once that takes time, but once that happens, that's happening, and you see players take huge jumps individually. You see our team make big strides in the wins and losses column, and then you get the snowball going in the right direction. And this summer, trying to fill out, I think we have some openings in the staff as far as strength coach and some other openings. So that makes that we have our roster set, we have our staff set, and then just getting everybody on the same page is going to be the biggest part of how we start. To answer your question there, Larry.
Yeah, would the two current assistants be in the running, or do you have your own people in mind to come in and assist you?
We're going to evaluate everything, Larry. I haven't, okay, to be honest with you, I really haven't thought about that.
Sure.
We have to, I'm going to talk to both Ben and Alfie, and we'll have multiple conversations. They're great people. There's be a lot of interest in the job too, I'm sure, in those jobs, as there is anytime there's a new coach. So I think in the next few weeks, all that stuff will kind of take care of itself.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thanks, Larry. Next we'll go to Jeff Mannix with the Big Jab Radio down in Portland. You could unmute, Jeff.
Sorry about that. I think I muted myself accidentally. Congratulations, Ben. I've got one for both you and Ken. Ben, I'll go to you first. Tell me about your experiences at Alfond Arena so far as an assistant coach coming in, and now, I guess, how do those experiences, I guess, if at all, do they help you coming in now to become the head coach at Maine?
That's a great question, Jeff. And so my experience as on the opposing bench in Alfond has always been, anytime you come into Alfond and you get any sort of win, tie, anything is always a bonus. And it really doesn't matter how, what the main team might be like that year. It might be the hardest place to play in college hockey. So, as a coach of that team, you have that advantage before anything starts. You know that environment is as tough as there is in college hockey. So it's a huge benefit for us. So you can imagine, if we get our team to a place where we can compete in the upper half of Hockey East and in the NCAA picture, that how much of an advantage that's going to continue to be going forward. We hope Alfond is a place where teams know they're going to come in and it's going to be next to impossible to win. And it's been like that in the past. I know that, again, it's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing. I have no doubt it'll be like that again in the future.
All right. And Ken, for you, you clearly have had a relationship with Ben here for a little while. I'm interested to know, just because this search happened so fast under these circumstances, and you've had some big decisions as athletic director before, did you put a little, what kind of a challenge was this for you as an athletic director to find a coach for this program at this time? And what sorts of things were you yourself looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I gave a little bit of that in the intro to Ben, but I'll try to give you some different material as well. I first met Ben in 2002. I want to say maybe late August 2002. So we've known each other, going on 2 decades now. When he was a student at RPI, and he was special then. I mean, you can just see it. Some people just have that quality about them. And it's, the way he communicates, the way that he interacted, the level of maturity, the recognition of the importance of the moment, I think is always something that Ben has possessed. And, he rocketed to infamy at RPI at one point in a playoff game, scoring 2 shorthanded goals on the same shift against Union College. And that's something anybody who was at RPI at the time will never forget. But it also put Ben actually at a bit of a disadvantage in the process, because I didn't want people to look and say, okay, this is somebody that Ken knows, it's a former student, so it's a done deal. In fact, I was probably a lot harder on Ben in the process than I was on other candidates because of that. Because I didn't want people to think that there was any element of an inside advantage here. In fact, it turned into a disadvantage for Ben. He had to go over and above what others produced as part of the search. And if you talk to the committee, they'll tell you I was pretty tough on Ben in the process, even though it was overwhelming through the rest of the committee where we needed to go. I followed Ben's career. We have stayed in touch. We have had lots of good conversations over the years, and even a couple of tough conversations, which he actually highlighted in his application letter for the position. But he and I, had a real difficult drill down one day sitting in a hotel lobby in Colorado Springs, Colorado, about where his career was going and what he needed to do to get to that next level. And I'll be darned, he went out and did it beyond what anybody could have expected. So we probably put Ben through the ringer a lot harder than any of the other candidates. But But you know what? When you're good, you don't mind that. When you're good, you don't mind the extra scrutiny. When you're good, you stand up and be tough and let your record stand for itself. And Ben did everything right. He's earned this opportunity, I think, beyond any shadow of a doubt. And I think, if you take a look at my phone right now, people in the hockey community are saying awfully good things about this hire, and they also feel great for Ben. And that's a good feeling when it feels like a win all the way around.
Excellent. Thank you to you both, Ben. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Next question will go to Travis Lazarchik, Portland Press Herald, Kennebec Journal, others.
Everything. Ben, thank you for your time today. University of Maine is probably a lot like UMass in that they're state schools in rather rural areas. What were some of the challenges to recruiting to UMass that you can kind of see coming up at UMaine, and how did you overcome them at UMass to get the town in there to win a national championship?
Thanks for the question, Travis. Good to meet you. I guess I don't see, and I've been at a few schools, and the difference with Maine is the schools I've been at in the past at the start did not have the past and the history and tradition of a school like Maine. So we have that going for us already, which is great. I don't see there being huge challenges on the recruiting front. I think the challenge is making sure you get the right person. It's easy to go and watch a hockey game and find the best player. Anybody in our business for the most part can do that. You can go and see, okay, watching a game, here are the 3 or 4 best players in that game. But that's not always the way to build your program. And sometimes finding that next level of player that might fit your culture better than the player that's a year or 2 older than them that might be a better player today is sometimes the way to go. And I think, I do believe that's been a strength of mine over the years at different programs, is being able to find that level of player that might not be a superstar today that can turn into a superstar in the right landscape, in the right program. And I don't see that at being any different at Maine as it is here at UMass, as it was at Providence, at Western Michigan, at Union, or even at RPI where I started as a volunteer and where I went to school and played hockey. It's very similar in all those places. The advantage we have at Maine is that we have such a huge, a great tradition and a huge list of alums, supporters, people that have had success at every level of hockey. So you already have that built in to what we're trying to do here, which, I have to utilize that in building this program. That there's a lot of people out there that really want to help, and we have to do it the right way. But to answer your question, I think it's finding the person that's going to fit our program, the school, the community. And that's not always the player, the student athlete that's the best person, the best player today. It might be the student athlete that's the best player a year or 2 from now. And having that vision and being able to find that group of players is going to be really important.
Okay, thank you. And then my question to Ken had already been answered, so I'm all set, Tyson.
Great, thanks, Travis. Next question will go to Gardner Royce, WRGB, CBS 6 Albany.
Hey, thanks. This is a question for Ben. You've talked about your experiences at Union and RPI, and I'm just wondering what you'll take from those experiences with the different coaching staffs into this position as head coach.
Thanks, Gardner. I'm going to try to take a little bit of every coach I've had and that's all the way from high school, up through RPI, Union, Providence, Western Michigan, UMass. Like I mentioned before, Gardner, I've just been super fortunate to be at the right place at the right time at times in my hockey career, whether that was as a player, as a coach. And I think I'm pretty good at listening. So I get there, I can try to understand what makes Nate Lehman such a good coach, what makes Greg Carville such a good coach, Andy Murray, all the coaches I've been with. But then I also have to be my own person, and I have to stand for I have to follow the principles that I believe are true. Fortunately, that's always matched up with the people I've coached with, which is really beneficial to me. So, building our staff and our program, that's going to be a really important thing. But yeah, like my time there, and I spent many years in the Albany area, Troy, Schenectady, was around some great people, had some great teammates over the years at RPI. So, when it was Dan Fridgen, Seth Appert, Monty, Nate Lehman, Rick Bennett, all these, I just, those are some of the best in the game. So I will take a little bit that I learned from all those people, hopefully, and hopefully I can make them all proud.
Thanks, Gardner. Next question to Travis Lee, WMTW down in Portland.
One for Ben and a quick one for Ken. Ben, I think probably every little hockey player starts his career, dreaming of being a pro. At what point did you kind of decide that coaching was going to be in your future? And, how does this feel to be a college hockey Division I head coach?
It feels great. Thanks for the question, Travis. So when I graduated RPI in 2004, it was the NHL lockout year the next year. So I had that. I was not probably going to play in the NHL. I was honest enough with myself to realize that probably wasn't going to be the case. But then that filtered down to all the leagues, the American League, the East Coast League, and everywhere throughout the hockey universe. So that decision was kind of made for me, to be honest, at that time. It was a tough year to graduate, as it is for all the seniors kind of leaving programs this year. It's very similar with with COVID and how that's affected pro hockey. So, luckily some of them get a chance to have that extra year, they're fortunate to be able to do that. But it was, I guess, and I mentioned this at the beginning. Alex Moody was he's a New England native, and he came to Shattuck St. Mary's and coached for a couple years. And he coached me my junior year at Shattuck St. Mary's, and he was the one that really pushed me to come out here. And he actually sent me to Hockey Night in Boston. This would have been back in like 1998, 99, somewhere in there. That was a big deal at the time. And that whole experience is how I ended up at RPI, how I ended up meeting Ken, that's really been the linchpin as far as all the opportunities I've gotten in my life after high school. So I know I'm rambling a little bit, Travis, on how fortunate I feel I am. And I'm very humbled. It's a dream come true for me. If you're not gonna make it to the NHL and have that 10-year pro career at the top of the game, this is every bit as good for someone like myself. And it's truly an honor. And as Ken mentioned, he was very hard on me in a good way through this process. And he's always been he's always been honest with me, even as a student athlete. And that's what I always admired about Ken, is he wasn't afraid to have conversations with a student athlete that he would have with a coach or have with anybody walking down the street. And I told him that at the start of this interview process, that I always remembered that. And for me, as a young person, a young coach or a student athlete, to be able to have conversations like that is so important, because I remember those as vividly as I remember any conversations I've had in my coaching career, because you really learn a lot from somebody that's in his position. And I appreciate that he was tough on me through the interview process, because I appreciate that. I'm going to be tough on our players, not in a bad way, in a good way. And sometimes that's not easy to do in our time. It's not easy to be hard on, to have tough conversations, to push people out of their comfort zone. And as a coach, that's really, really important for us to be able to do that. And I think, Ken has always done that for me, which is why it makes this so rewarding and so humbling.
Thank you. And one quick follow-up to you, Ben. Do you anticipate being active in the transfer portal, having connections with different players all over?
We'll look at it, Travis. You know, obviously it's part of our game now, so we have to embrace it one way or the other. I don't know if it's, I think the temptation is to go in there and think, hey, I'm going to add a bunch of players in the transfer portal. And, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to do it. You know, we've had transfers, especially the past few years here at UMass. We've had one or two each year, but it was always somebody that we were really familiar with, whether it was somebody from Providence that I'd recruited, some from St. Lawrence that Carvey or D Mike had were familiar with, because first, we all know what they can do. It's easy. There's no secrets what players can do on the ice now that with technology, and you can watch every second of video on anybody in the world anytime. What you don't know is are they the right person to be in your locker room? You know, so those are the things the transfer portal isn't necessarily going to tell you. And I'm not saying that there isn't somebody that would be a good fit for Maine somewhere in the transfer portal, but I think it's really important to do your homework and make sure you're not trying to build a team out of the transfer portal, because, you know, we're trying to build a culture, and that's going to start with, you know, bringing in really good student athletes, freshmen, and hopefully working with them over the course of the 4 or 5 years, depending on if they get an extra year eligibility. That's how you build a culture.
You're muted, Travis.
I'm sorry, Ken, can you disclose the length of the contract, the initial contract?
Yes, it's a 4-year contract, and there's a provision that is built in there that it can add an extra 2 years for a winning record in Hockey East. So it's a 4-year that could grow to a 6-year.
Thanks, Travis. Next we'll go to Dave Peck with Fox ABC Bangor.
Thanks, Tyson. Congrats, Ben. Just kind of touching on the recruiting part a little bit. You talked about bringing in the right player, not necessarily the best player. Is there a specific type of player that you already can foresee that you want in your scheme and your plan, besides, you know, skilled and a good teammate? And what does that scheme or system or plan look like at this moment in your head?
Thanks for the question, Dave. I don't think there's a cookie cutter player. Like say, hey, I want this player to be able to do this, this, and this. I've never really recruited like that. I think the way I do recruit is I really, really want that student athlete, that player, to want to be at Maine, you know, or wherever I was in the past. And the reason that that's so important is, you know, any time you feel like you have to convince somebody to do something, it becomes really hard to push them when they're in that program. And that's my opinion. That's how I've always felt, you know. So if we go into a recruiting relationship where we had to convince somebody with, you know, 50 phone calls and this and that, you know, the University of Maine is a good place for them, that I think you're going into that relationship on the wrong foot already, you know. And then when things get tough, and inevitably it's going to be tough at times, right? It's not a 4-year, you know, rainbows and roses type of scenario. Like playing hockey at the Division I level in Hockey East is hard, you know. So when times get tough, you know, the player that really wanted to be in that program initially is going to push through. Usually, you know, they're gonna be able to, when you're hard on them and you're trying to push them, they're going to respond to it the right way. And it's, I think that's really, really important, you know. And I think you know, character is a cliche and culture is a cliche when it comes to, you know, sports in general. But if you have a room of players that really, really want to be there, and I had a chance to speak with the players, the current players this morning, and it really feels like all those players are in that boat. Like, I mean, they've all reached out individually almost now, and that's a really good feeling, because you know that they really, really love the University of Maine. So if you're starting on that note, then, you know, when you start pushing them and start pushing them and try to make them better, and, you know, getting them out of that comfort zone, they're gonna react the right way, rather than, oh, this might not be for me, I'm gonna hop in the transfer portal or whatever, you know, because that's part of our world now. And that's so making sure that those players want to be in that locker room from day one is really, really important. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And just to build off something you said, you mentioned you spoke to the current players this morning. What was your message to them? And I assume it was virtual as well, but what was their message to them for that one?
Sure. It was really quick, and Ken just introduced me, and my message to them was I'm really excited to get to work. I wish we were. I know it's a few months away before we're going to probably be on the ice together and doing all the hockey stuff, but I just told them that I look forward to building our relationship and connecting with them, and the only way this all works is that they trust me, I trust them, and then they trust all the other student athletes in the locker room, and they trust everybody in our program. And that takes time. It's not, I can't, just because I'm the head coach, I don't expect them to all of a sudden trust me and believe everything I'm saying, so hopefully we get a chance to, to be together at some point this summer. Some of the players are going to be back at school, I think, and we're trying to get a few of them back if we can, to try to get those introductions out of the way and try to get some familiarity before the fall comes around. But that was my message to them, is that I think I think the culture is in a really good place. I think Red, Ben, and Alfie, and all the people involved in the program right now have done a good job with that, and that's the sentiment I'm getting from everybody around the program. So that's the most important piece. So if they're all willing to have an open mind and hit the ground running from day one, I think that's going to make all of our jobs a lot easier. And so that was my message to them, is how excited I am to be able to lead this program going forward, and then I look forward to building that trust, that two-way trust with them, and hopefully they can all do that with each other, and that's when we can really accomplish special things.
All right, Ben, thanks. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Next, we'll go to Eric Gullickson, WABI TV, Bangor.
Hi, Ben. Congratulations.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. So you're coming in, you've been an assistant coach, you've been associate head coach, and you got to make the leap to the head coaching job. And, you're coming into a program that kind of has that old school bash 'em, crash 'em style. What kind of, you look at that, what are you kind of hoping to do with what we got?
Good question, Eric. I think, I don't know if maybe it's just the history and tradition where, people feel that Maine has that, that hard nose, kind of, vibe. And I think that's great. I mean, that's one of the most important attributes of any hockey team. So I think we can build on that. As far as making that leap from being an assistant to a head coach, to me, I think the big difference will be talking to everyone on this call, and everyone here maybe a little bit more than you do as an assistant, which I'm perfectly comfortable doing. I think you'll find that I'll be pretty honest, and I'm not always a sugarcoated type of person, and I hope you will appreciate that. But I don't really view it that much differently from my roles in the past. I mean, obviously my title's different, but when you're trying to build something, when you're really invested in something, you throw all, your whole self into it, from day one, like at all times. And so I've always viewed I'm passionate about it. So I viewed every job I've had, and I'm going to give it my all, whether it's assistant head coach. I know obviously the perception is different now, and the title is different. And like I said, it's a little bit more visible than when you're an associate or assistant, but I'm going to jump into it, and I'm going to do what I've always done the same way, teach the same way, coach the same way. And I think we'll make marginal gains every single year, every single day, try to get a little bit better. And I think you guys will see some improvements, and I think you'll be really excited. And I hope it's a great ride.
Well, we hope so too. You guys, just based on what I've seen out of the programs that you've gone through, very aggressive style of hockey. Is that something that you hope to bring with you?
For sure. I don't know if it's like, it looks aggressive, and Coach Carvel did an amazing job with our team this year, and Coach DeMichael as well. Like, it's nice when you're together for 5 years and you're kind of all on the same page and you have that synergy, which takes time. We won 5 games our first year. So, once everyone gets on the same page and all the players know what's expected of them, that's when it looks really aggressive, really up tempo, and then you have the right people in there. And there's no questions. There's no question marks. They all know what we expect, like the habits and the details and the fundamentals. I mean, that's when everyone's on that same page. That's what, I think what you get, like what's happened with here for the past 3 years, and, the successes that we've had. So I would love over time for our team to look similar to that. But I think that all goes back to our whole staff, all of our players, the admin, all of us getting on the same page and understanding, like, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. Because once that happens, that's when the magic really starts happening, and again, that's a lot of communication. It's a lot of trust. It's, it's a lot of work. So it's, it's not, as Ken mentioned, it's not an overnight magic wand that, all of a sudden we're going to be undefeated next year. No, hopefully it's a progression we make. We make strides next year, the following year, and then, hopefully in a few years down the road, you're at the top, which is what our goal is.
You mentioned you talked to the players, but and as you said, you've seen everything on tape that you can get it anywhere. So with the group that we have currently, do you see keeping players? Because that's always a question when a new coach comes in. Are you going to keep the guys that we currently have? That's kind of the core of our team.
Good question, Eric. I think, a big piece of that is, with the transfer portal now, it's a two-way street, right? So if players for some reason think that things are, that there's a better place for them, they have that option now. My goal is to keep all the players that are in that locker room right now. I don't, can we add some more? Are there players out there that might become available over the course of the next few months? Sure. And we'll assess that when the time comes. I don't think, as I mentioned with the transfer portal question, I don't think that there's to come in and think you're going to change out 10 players in the course of a summer is going to work, and I don't want to do that. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think the right way to do it is to assess where things are at over the course of this year and assess what players are the right, the right fit for the Maine Black Bears. And like I told you before, all those players that I met with this morning, they all seem very excited, and they all seem like they really, really want to be here. And that's like the most important part. So of course we can always increase our talent level. We can, that the recruiting piece is a huge piece over time of what we need to do here at Maine. But, the other piece of it is developing the players that are here, and I can tell you, and I told some of the players this morning, I've been at 2 programs where, it was a new staff that came in, and those players that made it that, 3-4 years with that new staff, the players that were currently there, we had a player a few years ago that when we lost the national championship game, Kurt Keats, who was a Manitoba boy, that, we were really hard on him his first year when we took over and we won 5 games. And then, he kind of became like he was one of our best players at the end of that year. And it was so rewarding for him. And he was one of the first people to text me this morning when the news came out. So, those kind of things are really cool. And I told the guys this morning that, hopefully everyone that's in on that meeting this morning is here at the start of something really special. And 4 or 5 years from now, they'll all be like, wow, that was pretty neat that we were all there at the ground floor of that. And that'd be my vision and my goal and my hope for all those players that are currently in that locker room.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Eric. We've got about 15 minutes left here and 3 or 4 more questions it looks like to work through. Next, we'll go to Dave Ead, WGME in Portland.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. Welcome to Maine.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Just got a couple questions for you. You kind of alluded to this, but your first year at UMass, 5 wins. 2 years later, you're in the Frozen Four. So having done that, having kind of been through the whole process where you see I don't want to call it a rebuild, but where you see you can make a dramatic leap so soon, has to give you confidence that you can get this program, back to the national prominence that it once was, in relatively, not too far down the road.
For sure, Dave. That's a great question, a great point. I think it was, happened 3 years here at UMass. Providence, I was there for 3 years, and I think the 4th year they won. So it's, you have to get there's a little bit of luck involved in it, with getting, we had Cale McCarr walk in our door after our first year at UMass, so, he's arguably one of the best players in the world right now. Mario Ferraro is another player. So we had 2 defensemen that were instant game changers for us that second year. So, there's a little bit of that involved in it, but yeah, it's been the same at every program, where it usually takes 3 years to really kind of get some traction, you get a little bit better the first year, a little bit better the second year. And then hopefully that third year, if you've, they brought in the right kind of student athletes and the culture is getting stronger, that's when you make a huge jump, so I have no doubt we can do that here. These next few months are that's going to be the challenge, is to somehow, through the Zoom world that we're all experiencing, and, transitioning and moving up, to Maine, and, seeing how the staff shakes out and everything. So that's going to be our challenge, is making sure we can hopefully communicate that, in a positive way to, the current team and the incoming players, and, everybody in the community, because the first couple of months are going to be really important with that. And, that's obviously challenging in the world that we're in with, doing everything by Zoom, but hopefully we can get a little bit of, traction with that this summer before the season starts in the fall, to get us, hit the ground running a little bit.
Beautiful. Ben, one last one. Obviously this was a few months ago, but you played Maine once this year when you were with UMass, a 3-3 tie. Was there one thing that kind of stood out in that game that you may remember about the Black Bears, especially maybe after you found out that you got this job? I don't know if you went back and saw the tape, but was there one thing that you were like, because they were a tough out for a lot of teams, UMass Lowell, you guys once, but was there one thing that stood out about the Black Bears?
It was, I think, I think it was maybe Eric or Travis who brought this up, that the physicality was really, in that game, it was our last regular season game. And, I don't know if we expected them to be, they really, especially the forecheck, really kind of, they got on our D. We had a really, really good D core at UMass, and we had a hard time breaking out pucks in that game. And so that was something that was really noticeable in that game. Maine is always a hard team to play against, and that's not just the past year, that's every single year. And that's a really good attribute to have as a team, so that's a really good foundation to build on. I think, hopefully we can, develop our players. So, there's a little bit more, dynamic offense there. And we can play a little bit faster. So those are all things we can address, and I think we can improve over time. But, Maine has always been a hard team to play, like, as I mentioned, especially in Alphon. But, that game was at our rink, which is a huge home ice advantage for us at UMass. We play in a bigger sheet. So that was, it was a tough game for us. So I do remember, especially on the forecheck, and how hard the team played. And I think that's a credit to the culture and to the guys in that room right now.
Thank you so much, Coach. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Next question will go to Kyle Grabowski from the Daily Hampshire Gazette.
Ben, was it difficult to leave a place like UMass where you had established that culture? And what about Maine made it the right choice to leave something like that?
It's a good question, Kyle. It's good to see you too. It was really hard. I told Ken this, I think, yesterday. with my wife and our twins, we've the last few weeks have been crazy with the birth of twins, and she actually ended up back in the hospital a couple of days ago. So that's been tough, but she's doing fine. But I had to leave her yesterday, and I went back into the Mullins because I knew Carv and D Mike and everybody would be there. And like walking up into that office, knowing what I was going to tell them was really hard. It was really hard. It was one of the hardest things I've done. And I think that's a credit to Carvey and everybody involved in the staff that made that so hard, and it really was is a family here. So it was more, that was just one of the hardest things I've done. And I'm still, you can probably tell, I'm still a little bit, I'm still a little, I'm still a little emotional about it. But at the end of the day, we all dream of being able to go to a school like University of Maine and coach and be the head coach. And I mentioned that before. And then the familiarity of some of the people and my familiarity with Ken and some of the alums, it's a no-brainer for me if I had the opportunity. And so as hard as it is to leave something that you're really, really proud of, like I am at UMass, and how much I love all the people here, for being true to myself, it was 100% the right decision. And, I know the next few months will be hard with, moving up there, especially with 3 kids and 2 newborns. But I have so much support and Ken and his staff and all the people in the, athletics have been nothing but supportive of, so I know that's going to be an easy transition. And I couldn't be more excited. But it's a really good question, Kyle. And for sure, it was not easy, especially after what just happened the past few years. So.
Thanks, Kyle. Next question, Sam Rogers, News Center, Maine.
Hey, Ben, congratulations. Welcome to Orono. Just a quick on-ice question. I know, obviously at UMass, you touched on it a few times, how great the defensive core has been the past few years, and really kind of looking more so at the two-way aspect. A lot of these guys, like you mentioned, Kale, great goal scorer, great guy on offense. Is that something you want to bring to Maine, kind of that, two-dimensional style from the back end?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sam. I think the way the game is played now, it's really hard to not embrace that. There's so many defensemen that have such great offensive instincts. And so absolutely, that's something that we have to incorporate in our game here at Maine. And, obviously recruiting the right type of decor is a big part of that. But it's also how much, leeway you give them to get up in the play, to get deep in the offensive zone, all that kind of stuff. And, we allowed our guys here, our defensemen, to do that. And, but we didn't do it at the expense of giving up 2-on-1s and breakaways. And it took time. Again, we won 5 games that first year. So, we had to be willing to stick to what we thought would eventually work, even though it might be painful for a little while to start. So I'm sure that we'll have our ups and downs the first year or two. And, with instilling the, how we want to play and the standards that we want to play to. But yeah, to answer your question, it's really important to have D that can help you offensively. And on the other side of that, it's really important to have forwards that are really responsible defensively. So it's a 5-man game, 6 with a goalie, obviously, but it's a 5-man game in all zones these days. So the game has really evolved in that way.
Thank you. I'm all set. Thanks, Tyson.
Thank you, Sam. So that concludes our roundtable, and we'll end up right back where we started with a follow-up from Larry Mahoney. So Larry, if you want to unmute, we'll let you have a follow-up.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben and Tyson for squeezing me in here. Ben, when Red took over, he honored the scholarships of the previous coaches' recruiting group. I don't think it helped him. I think it slowed his rebuild because some of the players weren't really his types of players, but he felt it was important to honor their scholarships, which you don't have to do. Do you have you sort of alluded to that with Eric? Do you have a sense of bringing everybody back, even if they aren't your type of player? And the last question is, what will be the trademark of a Ben Barr hockey team? And that's it. Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, those are good questions. I guess it's hard I don't want to be vague, and I really don't. I'm not trying to be in any way. It's hard for me I really have to dive into understanding. I know a lot of the players on our current team. Obviously coaching against them, recruited some of them over the years. So I'm somewhat familiar with a good portion of them, and I'm comfortable with them.
Okay.
As far as incoming players, the same. I'm not 100% familiar with all of them. So I think over the next few weeks to a month, I think that all those things will kind of take care of themselves. But the other side of that, I don't know. The other piece of that is are there other players out there that if someone wants to leave or someone doesn't feel it's the right fit, you have to be able to replace them with somebody as good or better. And that's, finding the right person, finding the right student athlete. So it's really easy to go into somewhere and say, hey, I'm going to do this, and these people are gone and people are coming in. But, there has to be a plan behind that, and some, there has to be a little bit of homework done if you're going to make any of those changes, especially right away. So I really I don't anticipate that happening right away. I'm not naive enough to say that someone might not leave and might not add another player or two. Like I know those are all possibilities, and I've done that at previous stops. So I'm really open to anything, and I'm open to the right people that want to be part of this. So anything's possible. So again, Larry, I'm not trying to be vague in that regard. I also want to do my homework before I answer a question like that.
Sure.
I don't want to make any decisions, without having logic behind it.
And what will be the trademark of a Ben Barr team?
A trademark of our team. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to answer that question.
No problem.
Trademark of our team would be, in your face, fast and hard, and hopefully very prepared. I'm not going to steal like our identity at UMass. We wanted to be fast, hard, and prepared. So I don't want to steal that from Carvey or anything. But I think it's really important that our team is extremely competitive, and if you can get skilled players with ability that are competitive, you're always going to be in every single game. And those aren't always the high draft picks. They aren't always the highly touted blue chip players, but that compete level is really what I've been fortunate to be able to, I think, be pretty good at recognizing in players. And then when they have that inner drive to get better and better and better, that's when your team keeps getting better and better and better. And I think hopefully over the course of months and years, everyone on this call, I hope you all see that, and you'll appreciate how hard our team works. Hopefully how well coached we are, how detailed we are. And I believe that'll result in, the wins that we all want.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Larry.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And thanks to everyone for taking the time to join the call today. I really appreciate you all hopping on. To Ken and Ben, thank you very much for your time. And once again, Ben, congratulations. Hope everyone has a good day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
everyone. Thanks, Tyson.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.